Early socialism. Socialist models and ideas espousing common or public ownership have existed since antiquity. I just highlight that because maybe it's true, I don't know. But there's a fallacy called like the antiquarian fallacy or something, and it's the fallacy that just because something's old and been around a long time, therefore it's better or good or valid or something. So that just struck me as possibly a antiquarian fallacy. The teachings of Jesus are frequently described as socialist, especially by Christian socialists. However, both socialists and non-socialists have disputed claims of Jesus being a socialist. I don't know where I would fall down on that. I'm not much of a scholar when it comes to Jesus' teachings, although I do think reading the New Testament on the stream one day would be good. Christian socialism was one of the founding threads of the British Labour Party. Now, how about that? I didn't know that. I knew that socialism and the British Labour Party were very closely linked, but I didn't know that Christian socialism. But I suppose that makes sense because back then it was pretty taboo to not be Christian and to not believe in God, wasn't it? Until they started rolling out and really pushing Darwinian evolution, and you had the likes of T.H. Huxley, Darwin's bulldog, pushing scientific materialism. We all evolved from pond scum, and therefore we're just all bags of chemicals and biological reactions in a mechanistic universe, and there's no meaning to anything or purpose to anything. So they had to push that and push that and push that. These families, the Huxleys and the Darwins and the Galtons, pushing that all the time, and Lord Bertrand Russell, in order to break down this Christian worldview with a God and a human that's been endowed with the spark of the divine and a role as custodian of the other living things here in God's creation, right? The first advocates of socialism favored social leveling in order to create a meritocratic or technocratic society based on individual talent. So meritocratic to me sounds fair. If you're good at something, you work hard at something, and there's natural talent. Some people have certain aptitudes for some things, but not everyone has an aptitude for everything. Some people are going to be good at stuff, but having competition and having people rewarded according to how hard they work or how good a product they produce is a fairer way of doing things. But to lump meritocratic in with technocratic, I was a bit confused there. But interesting that the first advocates of socialism were pushing technocracy and a technocratic society. Technocracy is ruled by scientific experts, and they'll use technological means to do that, including AI systems and algorithms to decide who gets to do what and really dictate to you the level to which you're allowed to participate in life. Henri de Saint-Simon was fascinated by the potential of science and technology and advocated a socialist society that would eliminate the disorderly aspects of capitalism based on equal opportunities. So he wants to eliminate equal opportunities. So this is where you get into equality of outcome versus equality of opportunity. In my opinion, it's better that we all have the same opportunities to work, to earn, to grow food, to have a family, to get married, to settle down, to travel, to do what we want to do with the people we want to do. But no, he wants to get rid of equal opportunities using science and technology. We should learn more about this guy at some point. Maybe we will. But for now, it's the first time I heard of him. He sought a society in which each person was ranked according to his or her capacities. So that, to me, that sounds like meritocracy. Rewarded to his or her work, that also sounds reasonable, Okay, so there's loads more in this article, but a bit that I wanted to highlight, and then I think we'll move on, is here. The Fabian Society is a British socialist organization established to advance socialism via gradualist and reformist means. So remember, socialism is set up in tension with capitalism, individualism, and with a Christian worldview. In other words, this organization is established to get rid of capitalism, to get rid of individualism, and to get rid of Christianity by gradualist and reformist means. The society laid many foundations of the Labour Party and subsequently affected the policies of states emerging from the decolonization of the British Empire, most notably India and Singapore. Originally, the Fabian Society was committed to the establishment of a socialist economy alongside a commitment to British imperialism as a progressive and modernizing force. So this is where you kind of get the overlap with Cecil Rhodes and Lord Milner and their roundtable groups and their secret societies, which were aimed at this furthering and expanding of British imperialism. So it's interesting to me that the origins of the Labour Party overlap with the kind of people talked about in Quigley's Anglo-American establishment here. Later, the society functioned primarily as a think tank and is one of the 15 socialist societies affiliated with the Labour Party. So there's 15 other socialist societies associated with the Labour Party here in England. This term think tank What is a think tank? Well, it's the shadow power. It's the unelected people who steer things. You know, they're not in the news, they're not in the headlines, they're not wheeled out on chat shows, they're not talking to, what's that goon called? Piers Morgan. These are the people, the brainy boffins, the so-called elite. They think of themselves as elite. I think of them more like cowardly parasites, but they get together and they plan things way out into the future. Royal Institute for International Affairs, Chatham House here in the UK, Council on Foreign Relations in America. This is another one of those. Brookings Institute is one that was funded by the Rockefellers that we talked about in a Rockefeller video. So that's a think tank. This is when you want to know who's doing it and who has the power. These are better places to look rather than the fairy tale for adults that is politics. That's how I think of it. It's like fairy tales for adults. Okay, in the early 20th century, there's other articles linked here. One of them is World Communism. People say, oh, there's no conspiracy for a global system of control. And it's like, well, why is there a Wikipedia article called World Communism? And then just another curiosity that stood out to me was in 1909, the first kibbutz was established in Palestine by Russian Jewish immigrants. The kibbutz movement expanded through the 20th century following a doctrine of Zionist socialism. So there's also a flavor of socialism called Zionist socialism. So this bit, the interwar period. So the Soviet Union, this whole part is about the Russian Revolution and how they actually rolled out this socialism, communism thing. What happened? 2 major famines. First one had estimates between 1 and 10 million. That is quite a gap. And they don't have any idea. I could 110, 110 million, something like that. So I feel like there's a bit of fudging of the numbers there. They probably know it's like 9.9 million and they're like, well, just try not to make it seem so bad. So let's just say it's between 1 and 10 million. Yep, but that was a famine in 1921 and 22. And then there was a second famine, which resulted in millions. So they don't even give you an estimate there or a range. They just say millions. So it could be like tens of millions, but they just say millions. It says here the Soviet economy was the modern world's first centrally planned economy. So very much worth bearing that in mind as we move forward. So 2 famines, and then the experience with the famine led Lenin to replace war communism with new economic policy in 1921 to alleviate the shortages. And then this bit, under the NEP, the new economic policy, private ownership was allowed for small and medium-sized enterprises. So they rolled out socialism / communism because it's the same thing. They had a massive famine. Up to 10 million people died. And the solution was, oh, well, we better give private ownership back to small and medium-sized enterprises. So lesson learned right there.